Wouldn't it be great if there were proven and vetted great products out there just waiting for someone to take them to market? Well, they exist. Let me explain. Today I'm talking with Austin Leach from TechLink. TechLink is the Department of Defense's only national partnership intermediary for technology transfer. Since 1999, TechLink has helped transfer over 1,000 DOD inventions to industry. TechLink brokers or facilitates approximately 60% of all DOD license agreements nationwide. All these great ideas are sitting out on a website, just waiting to be grabbed and taken to market. Could be you. Stay tuned for the details. Coming up next on Veteran on the Move.
Welcome to Veteran on the Move. If you're a veteran in transition, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone still stuck in that JOB trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. And now, your host, Joe Crane.
My good friend and fellow veteran Bob Euland has come out with his new book titled Transitions 2.0. This is the best book for any transitioning veteran. Check out Transitions 2.0 at veteranonthemove.com/transitions. Hey, Austin Leach, welcome to Veteran on the Move. Thanks for being here, and we're going to talk about TechLink. So before we get to talking about TechLink, give us a little idea of what your background is and how you got started in TechLink.
Absolutely. So prior to joining TechLink, I was actually with a medical device company in the Silicon Valley area for about 6 years. Initially, I was working on developing new materials for implantable cardiovascular devices, and then moved on to developing next generation continuous glucose monitoring devices for diabetes management. And it was about 2014, if I look back on it, and I was looking for a change of pace. I came across this opportunity with TechLink. They were looking for a PhD level material scientist to support licensing of DOD inventions to the private sector, and I just jumped on the opportunity.
Wow, that's awesome. So what is TechLink, and why are we talking about it on a podcast that has to do with veterans and entrepreneurship?
So TechLink is what's called a partnership intermediary for the Department of Defense. We actually are funded by the Department of Defense to work with the defense research laboratories around the country. Those laboratories are producing patented inventions which can be utilized by the private sector to turn the technology into new products or services for the company. And so we're talking today because TechLink is really a great resource for entrepreneurs to identify new technology opportunities which they could use to either start a new business or to grow their existing business with a new product.
So we're actually talking about DOD is inventing products, services, software, whatever it may be, devices, and they're using it within the DOD, and they're actually, in simple layman terms, they're actually saying it's okay if this thing goes out to the civilian market and through a process known as technology transfer, and an organization like TechLink, we're going to try to facilitate the transfer of this technology out into the civilian workplace and have entrepreneurs, startups, companies grab onto this technology and try to take it to market.
That's right. Most people are probably not aware that the Department of Defense has research laboratories around the country that are performing federally funded research and development really at the cutting edge of science. And this is not limited to a particular scientific discipline. They're really working across the full spectrum of science, anything from new materials to biomedical type inventions to software. And, these laboratories are really critical to maintaining our defense superiority. They're supplying new technology to the warfighter so that we can maintain our asymmetrical advantage on the battlefield. But what we do is look for the technologies that are coming out of these laboratories that would have some dual use application. So the scientists with the DOD are solving problems specifically for warfighter applications, but we look through their intellectual property or their patent portfolio and try to identify technologies that have some other application in the commercial marketplace. And that could be a new material that prevents corrosion, or it could be potentially a new type of vaccine intended to prevent the spread of disease. Really, the possibilities are endless.
So if I'm an entrepreneur and through TechLink, you're saying I can actually go in and have access to some of the stuff that is being invented or created at the DOD level and say, you know what, I could create an entire business around that one product just by itself, or that capability right there would dramatically help me in my business, or I know an entire marketplace that could utilize that technology and I'm the guy to take it to them. Is that essentially how it gets started?
That's exactly right.
What is the process for a veteran entrepreneur to get started with the TechLink process and utilizing a technology that's available?
Yep. So the place to start would be for the veteran or entrepreneur to visit the TechLink website, and that URL is techlinkcenter.org. On the website are all the technologies that are available for license. These are arranged by industry category or searchable by keyword. Once technology is identified, we provide a detailed description of the technology. The patent, which covers the technology, is listed. And additionally, there's a point of contact for each technology, which gives you an actual person here at TechLink to talk to that can assist you through the technology evaluation and then licensing process.
Wow. So once you're in that process, like how does it normally work? Does it actually cost money?
So there are financial terms associated with the license agreement itself. Mm-hmm. So the process would start by putting together a formal license application that would be submitted to the laboratory which owns the technology. The application actually includes details about your intentions to commercialize the technology, and this would include information such as what products do you intend to make that would be covered by the patent that you're licensing. How do you intend to manufacture the product, and gives a little bit of background on who you are as an entrepreneur or a company so that the laboratory can make a decision on whether or not to license the technology to you. Now, once the laboratory has your application in hand, then you start negotiating the financial terms of the agreement. These are generally very favorable terms. They have an associated upfront fee that would be paid to get into the license, and then typically a running royalty percentage that's applied to sales of the individual product or service.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about technology transfer a long time ago on this show, and it was mostly through universities, and there was a financial mechanism so that the professors or the department or even some of the students that came up with a technology within a university-funded program could benefit financially on down the road. Is that kind of what's happening here? Some of the individuals involved in the DOD laboratory actually can get a financial gain out of their technology, or is it just going to the DOD?
No, that's absolutely the same situation with DOD. The inventors of the technology do receive some compensation, but I think the real win here is that these are federally funded, taxpayer-funded inventions that are coming out of the defense laboratories, and these scientists get to see their ideas come into actual tangible products. And so the big reward for most of the inventors that I speak with is really seeing their hard work come to fruition. And then, of course, the financial compensation they get is also nice.
And there isn't any, an entrepreneur doesn't have to give up any equity in their company or anything like that for the technology. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. The deals can be structured in really an infinite number of possibilities. The idea is for both sides to come to some win-win arrangement that makes sense financially for the company. So that could be structured on an equity basis, or it could be just purely a financial upfront type of arrangement. The federal government can't actually take an equity position in a company, but there are ways to structure the deal so that a company can not have to pay a huge amount of money up front to get into the license. You can kind of backload the deal so that once they're successful in commercializing the product, then the financial terms kind of kick in.
Okay, and you're currently working on a project with Army Labs. Can you tell us about that?
So we support a number of different Army research laboratories. We actually just completed a project with the Army Research Laboratory in Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland, and we were trying to identify a new process that could speed up the licensing of technologies from the DOD. And what we came up with was something called express licensing. And this is an online licensing process to get the technology out of the lab. The real kicker is that the financial terms are predefined. And so it takes the negotiation out of the process. So these are specific technologies that are available for license online at established terms. And generally, these terms are very favorable from the company's perspective. We're looking at somewhere from $2,000 to $4,000 upfront to get into the license, and then a moderate royalty percentage of ranging from 2% to 4% also, depending on the level of exclusivity that the company would desire. And so these technologies are labeled on the techlinkcenter.org website as express licensing, and I would encourage any of the entrepreneurs to sift through those specific opportunities for the fastest way to actually license one of these technologies.
Yeah, that sounds, a few $1,000s in a royalty is really all it's costing you to take a technology and run with it. So, and a lot of these technologies, they're not just ideas that they've come up with. A lot of them, probably most of them, are being used successfully within the DoD already. So they're kind of a proven concept.
Right. So really, you're leveraging the research and development investment that the laboratories or the taxpayers have funded into the laboratories. So you're getting an idea that is beyond concept phase. It has a significant amount of investment to qualify the idea, to advance the technology. So it's kind of like a half-baked idea. You're looking for a company to pick up that body of research and finish developing it into a commercially feasible product.
Okay. And so I just want to clarify one thing. What we're not talking about, there are mechanisms, but TechLink is involved. It's pretty much a one-way street, right? It's taking DoD technology, putting it out to the civilian marketplace. You're not. TechLink is not involved in the process where maybe somebody in the military or somebody in the government has an idea and they push it into the DoD system as an idea and it gets researched and developed into a product.
That's right. So we're taking the ideas generated in the laboratory system and moving those out to the private sector. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that the DoD would not be interested in acquiring these technologies back and supplying to the warfighter, but that really depends on kind of a per technology basis. Some of the technologies really have large commercial markets that tend to be the focus, and then some of the technologies may have some direct application that the DoD is looking for.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Army veteran Bob Hewlin knows the struggles veterans face in the transition process and has dedicated his post-retirement years to helping veterans successfully transition into the civilian sector. His new book, Transitions 2.0, is one of the best books for any veteran facing the transition process. You can find Transitions 2.0 at veteranonthemove.com/transitions. Also, Bob Hewlin is the chairman and CEO of the Center for Transitional Leadership. CTL seeks to assist and empower armed forces personnel during their transition from military service to private sector employment with particular focus on helping military men and women position themselves to be sought-after candidates in the civilian workforce. I have the pleasure of serving on the board of directors for CTL, and you can check out the CTL website by going to veteranonthemove.com/CTL. All right, we're back talking with Austin Leach from TechLink. And Austin, before the program, we were talking about a streamlined program you have with Army Labs. I also understand you have a couple of technologies you've licensed recently to an Army veteran in Tennessee. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So Russ Hubbard owns a company called Pervivo Labs in Kingsport, Tennessee. Actually identified a technology from the Army Research Laboratory on the TechLink website and reached out to me personally to learn more about the technology and where it may be used. This particular technology was something that we call the rate-actuated tethers. It's a really interesting advanced material technology that has rate-sensitive properties. So you can think of a rubber band sort of that if you pull the rubber band really rapidly, it resists motion, but if you pull it slowly, it extends. And this kind of lends itself to a number of different potential applications. But what Russ settled on was using this type of material for application in physical therapy resistance bands. So we all know those rubber resistance bands that you tie onto your doorknob and you're supposed to do exercises with. Mm-hmm. Well, Russ wanted to take this technology and kind of produce the next generation of that really simple elastic band, but give it some new capabilities. And so that was one example. And then since he's licensed that technology, he actually came back for a second helping and has licensed technology from the Naval Research Laboratory. And this one is called the Mixed Odor Delivery Device. It's a tool for training canines on detection of explosives. Really? And Russ is actually, as we speak, is doing a training seminar on the technology. He's produced the actual devices, and he's meeting with dog trainers up at another Navy laboratory in Maryland to train them on how to use the technology.
No kidding. So is that saying we might actually get like smell-o-vision on our televisions here in the near future?
Yeah, that's right. That particular technology, if you think about improvised explosives, generally there are two components to an explosive. There's the oxidizer and the fuel. And there's any number of combinations of the two components that could create an actual explosive device. And so the unique thing about the mixed odor delivery device is it's taking the individual components, keeping them isolated so that you're not mixing things and creating a volatile explosive compound. You're actually keeping them separate, and then they each release vapors, which we're mixing the vapor and training the dog to the mixture of the vapor rather than to an explosive actual composition. So it's a pretty cool idea, and Russ was really keen on licensing this and getting it out into practice so that we could increase the efficiency of the canines to detect explosives.
Now, do you know if this technology was already being used successfully within the DOD in the military?
So it was developed at the Naval Research Laboratory, and they were looking for a commercial partner to kind of bring it out into the marketplace. And so they had developed the technology, but the DOD doesn't actually manufacture goods. They rely on the private sector to take technology, commercialize it, and then sell it back to the DOD. So this is really a textbook example of the laboratory system working as it's intended, creating technologies, spinning those out to the private sector, and then the private sector delivering the technology back to the DOD and the warfighter.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And, because oftentimes, with a lot of veterans and spouses and people in the military community, they have this fascination with entrepreneurship, and they really want to get into entrepreneurship. But oftentimes, and I struggle with this myself for many years, is you just don't have the idea. It's like, okay, I'm just a normal person. Yeah, maybe I can come up with some harebrained idea and try to take it to market. But in this case, you can sift through a bunch of vetted ideas, coming from these highly capable research laboratories, and grasp onto something, and with very little investment up front, get some energy and some funding behind it, and take it to market. What better way to get into the entrepreneurial process than that?
That's right. And if you were to go to the TechLink website, we have around 5,000 of these technologies listed that are available for license. And these range from highly complicated new semiconductor materials that may require, very significant investment in capital equipment and manufacturing capability. So we range from that end of the spectrum to more simple devices like the mixed odor delivery device, which are looking for a manufacturer to take the design and sell it commercially.
And TechLink's been around since 97, 99 timeframe?
That's right.
The database goes back to 97?
Right. So we've been supporting the Department of Defense since 1999 and currently help facilitate around 60% of all of the licenses which are done with the DOD.
Wow. And how many, since you've been keeping track, or since TechLink has been involved, how many, are you able to say how many licensing agreements have occurred or facilitated?
I do have that number. Let me bring it up.
I see here it says 1,200 partnerships. Is that the number, or is that something else?
Let's see. I need to pause it for a second because I don't have this in front of me. Yeah, it's somewhere over 1,000.
Okay, well, it's quite significant. And right now there's essentially 5,000 ideas, products available for the taking.
That's right. There's about 5,000 patented technologies that are listed on the website.
Wow, that's really cool. So what's the reason you're specifically, and I don't know if we've even brought this up yet, TechLink is actually looking specifically for veterans to take some of these ideas to market. What's the reasoning behind looking for veterans?
Well, oftentimes veterans may have a personal connection to the technology. Certainly, they have a working knowledge of how the technology may have been originally intended for the military application. And that gives the veterans sort of a head start on exploring dual use applications of the technology that may be fitting in the commercial marketplace.
Okay. So do you have any best practices that come to mind when, like, for example, somebody that just got out of the military who's completely on their own and have never been in entrepreneurship before, probably not the best guy to license some really high-speed technical computer chip technology to. So I'm sure you look at the individual, the capability of their company, their manufacturing capability, that kind of thing. What are there any best practices that come to mind? Like, okay, if you're going to go look into getting one of these technologies, what kind of things you need to make sure you have in your toolkit before you go through the application process?
So the first thing a veteran should do in order to license a technology is start thinking about forming a business entity, because the Department of Defense will not license a technology to just an individual. They license technologies to companies. And so this could be as simple as creating an LLC. And once the LLC is in place, then you could formally apply for a license. Now, in terms of getting started and evaluating a technology and looking for the right match, we've talked about the range of technologies that you may see coming out of these laboratories, and they range in the type of science as well as the level of complexity of the invention. Now, some of these inventions would require significant manufacturing capability or some advanced scientific training in order to finish the development, whereas some of the inventions are more just looking for a manufacturer to produce the technology, and it may be more on the kind of simple design side rather than the really highly complex side. So it's the entrepreneur would need to come to the website, identify some technologies of interest, and then just reach out to one of the TechLink contacts. We can help you understand the level of complexity associated with the technology and what may be needed to kind of carry it across the finish line.
Okay. So folks at TechLink are definitely there to help assist, answer questions, and even offer ideas and assistance to anybody that's looking to start this process. So even if you haven't really gotten started, you can start gathering information and facts, and then if you're looking at a certain technology, you go back and actually start your company and put some of the pieces and parts together before you come back to TechLink and actually officially apply to license.
That's right. We're here as a no-cost resource. We're fully funded by the Department of Defense to work with entrepreneurs and companies to take these technologies out of the laboratory and move them into the private sector. We don't take a percentage of the license agreement. We have no financial gain here. Our mission is really to get the technology out of the lab into the economy, create new jobs, new products and services, so that we can recoup the investment made by the U.S. taxpayer in funding this research and development in the first place.
That's awesome. So if I'm like, for example, the Army veteran in the Tennessee area, if he's an up and running company established and he's already more or less perfectly matched for a certain type of technology, how long does the process take from beginning to end if everything's good and correct from the beginning?
So we've seen it go as quickly as 2 months, and it can take up to 6 months or even a little bit longer, depending on the particular technology and the laboratory which the technology came from. So the easy answer is that it depends, but with platforms such as express licensing, we're really making a concerted effort to increase the transactional efficiency of getting these license agreements in place so that companies can move quickly and hit the market when the market needs it.
Okay. Well, Austin, you mentioned going to it's just TechLink. It's techlink.org is the website to take a look at what the available technology. TechLink
Center, all one word, .org.
Okay. And once somebody goes there and they can look through the technology, is it facilitated on the website where, okay, I kind of need to talk to somebody on the phone and put some, do some questioning and collaboration from there?
That's right. Yep. Each technology has an individual point of contact. There will be a box on the right-hand side of the screen if you're on your computer or if you're on your mobile device. I believe it's at the bottom of the technology. It gives you a phone number, an email address, and it says, "Let's talk." We're happy to continue the conversation and provide assistance throughout the process.
That's great. That's great. Now, so before we go, we're about out of time. Is there any one last bit of advice that we might not have covered that you would give to a veteran or a spouse or somebody from the military community that might be interested in some of the technology transfer?
My biggest suggestion would be don't try or think that you have to know how to do everything on the business side and be kind of fully up and running before you take one of these technologies and try to move with it. There's a number of different resources that are available to small businesses and entrepreneurs that are likely right in your backyard that you may not even be aware of. So I would encourage folks to tap into your local small business ecosystem, see which resources are available to help you get your company up and running. And then to reach out to TechLink, we can help you evaluate the technology, help you put together your application package, including your plans for commercialization, and then work with you and the laboratory to come to an agreement that makes sense for your business.
Outstanding. Man, you should be an entrepreneur. That was well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's all sorts of phenomenal resources out there, especially for veterans and their families and none of us are good at all of it. So if you don't like doing the accounting, find somebody to do the books and the accounting for you, and everything else too. So you can stay focused on working on your business instead of working in your business. Well, Austin, thanks for sharing this great opportunity. I will definitely be on the TechLink website here when we're done with this interview, poking around in there because I love looking at great ideas. And so we'll stay in touch, and maybe a year or two down the road we can circle back and find out what the status is, and give us a progress update on TechLink.
That sounds great, Joe. Thanks for having us.
All right, Austin, we're out of here. As you can tell from listening to the Veteran on the Move podcast, interviews are a great way to tell your story and spread the word about your business. If you would like to get booked as a podcast guest, I recommend Interview Valet. You can check out Interview Valet at veteranonthemove.com/valet. Be sure to check out Thrive15.com, the world's premier online education platform that helps entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs learn how to start or grow a successful business. Start your free 30-day membership by going to Thrive15.com and use the promo code VETERAN. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.